as I'm pretty sure I won't survive another Shadow Ball. In this video, I'll be attempting a Pokémon Platinum Hardcore Nuzlocke using only shiny Pokémon with full 1 in 8,192 odds. This took an eternity to make, so I'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave a like to support the effort. I have a naming theme for all my Pokémon, so if you can guess what it is, leave your answer in the comments below. If you're unfamiliar with what a Hardcore Nuzlocke is, the rules are on screen and in the description, and so without further ado, let's get into this. So then starts the long and painful journey of soft resetting until I find a shiny starter. I obviously have to hunt for a shiny Turtwig cause, well, reasons.
75 years later.
Yo! Let's go! That wasn't even so bad.
What happened?
What do you think happened?
I don't know what happened.
Oh my god. That took me 13 hours, which sounds like a lot, but I actually got pretty lucky. You see, I managed to encounter about 7 Turtwigs per minute, so mathematically speaking, I should have been soft resetting for another 7 hours. And then I totally lost against my rival. But that's alright, since the challenge doesn't actually start until I get my first Pokeballs. Turtwig has a naive nature, which is nothing special. I head on over to Professor Rowan's lab and name him Jason. Because this is a Nuzlocke, and a hardcore one at that, I really can't afford to have just one Pokemon. If I lose him, I'll have to start all over again. So I head to Route 202 where I start hunting for yet another encounter. I managed to encounter a whopping 18 encounters per minute, which is 1,080 encounters per hour. That would mean I'd have to spend about 7 to 8 hours looking for an encounter, which honestly isn't as bad as I initially thought. I didn't get quite as lucky with the numbers as I did last time though, because I spent almost 10 hours looking, until finally, I found this beautiful Shinx. That is an absolutely stunning shiny sprite. I name him Freddy. Freddy has a lonely nature, which is good for a physical attacker, but the lower defense is a bit off-putting. He does have the ability to intimidate though, which lowers the opponent's attacks on the first turn it's out in battle. This is super good to have. With my team of discolored Pokemon, I venture over to Orberg to take on the first gym leader, Rourke. He specializes in rock-type Pokemon, so this is a job for Jason the Turtwig. Jason takes out Geodude with a single Razor Leaf. Rourke sends out his Onix next, but a 4 times effective Razor Leaf instantly KOs Onix. Last out is Cranidos, who uses Leer, which lowers Jason's defense. Jason goes for 1 more Razor Leaf, which leaves Cranidos on low HP. I'm afraid Cranidos will be able to KO after the defense drop, but I go for it anyway. But thankfully Rourke just uses a potion, so 1 more Razor Leaf wins me the gym badge. Whilst leveling up my team, Freddy the Shinx evolves into a Luxio. So with that, I feel prepared to take on Commander Mars and Valley Windworks. Mars leads with her Zubat, which is easy fodder for Freddy. Mars sends out a cat that only a mother can love. She uses Fake Out, which actually ends up being a critical hit. Freddy retaliates with Spark and does a decent chunk and actually ends up paralyzing Progly. In hindsight, I should probably have switched out here, but I stay in and go for another Spark, which barely doesn't kill. Progly hits back with a feint attack that leaves me on 6 HP. On the next turn, Freddy is able to take out Progly, but my god, that was close. After that, Jason the Turtwig evolves into a Grottle. Come on, Turtwig! Turtwig! There's not much else to do but to challenge the next gym leader, Gardenia. I send out Jason and start setting up with Curse. After that, I'm able to easily one-shot Turtwig with Return, which does hurt my soul a little bit. Gardenia sends out Roserade next and deals some decent damage with Grass Knot, but 1 more Return KOs her too. Sharam is out next, but just like the others, she goes down to her Return, and with that, I've beat the second gym. As I'm EV training my team, I actually happen to stumble upon a shiny Bidoof. People like to hate on him, but I'm gonna clear his name as an HM slave and prove that he's more than that. I name her Jaws. She has a naive nature which is decent, and the ability Simple, which is gonna be fun to utilize later on. I level her up, and eventually Jaws the Bidoof evolves into Jaws the Bibarel. I then head over to the Galactic Building in Eterna City to challenge Commander Jupiter. I send out Jaws, not realizing that Zubat has Giga Drain. Thankfully Zubat doesn't do too much damage, and a single rollout is able to take her out. Jupiter sends out Skuntank, who smells bad and likes to crit. A rollout brings it to about a third, so Skuntank is able to retaliate. That almost gave me a heart attack, even though I had a feeling it was gonna happen. Jaws is stuck using rollout, so I have to pray another will be enough. And it is! Another way too close commander battle. I head over to Hearthome City and I've just got to show off my shinies, so I head into the contest hall. Just look at this good boy. What? You guys are just jealous. After that humiliation, I decide it's time to challenge gym leader Fantina. This gym can be quite tricky a lot of the time since her Miss Magius hits hard and has a lot of coverage. She leads with her Dust Skull, so I start setting up with Curse. On the next turn, Jason takes her down with a Bite. Fantina sends out her ace, Miss Magius, next. She deals about a third of my health as Jason connects with a Bite, which sadly isn't enough to KO. Jason also takes a future side attack, lowering his health even further. As I'm thinking of what to do next, I happen to misclick and press Bite. My heart drops as I'm pretty sure I won't survive another Shadow Ball. But somehow, someway, Jason pulls through and one more Bite takes down Miss Magius. Last out is Haunter. I switch into Jaws and go for Pluck, which does a sad bit of damage. Hunter actually connects with a Hypnosis, and so I decide to switch into Freddy instead. Hunter lands a Confuse Ray, but Freddy pulls through and takes down Fantina's last Pokemon with a Bite, winning me another gym badge. After that, Freddy the Luxio actually evolves into Majestic Luxray, and on top of that, Jason the Grottle evolves into his final form, Torterra. This does make me feel a lot safer, not gonna lie. I take on Gym Leader Maylene next. I send out Freddy first, but he gets hit with a Fake Out and flinches. On the next turn though, a Spark takes Meditite to low health and even paralyzes her. Freddy takes down Meditite with another Spark, and so Maylene sends in her ace, Lucario. So I switch into Jason. Lucario uses Force Palm, which actually ends up paralyzing Jason, but thankfully he pulls through and lands an Earthquake, which is enough to KO. Last out is Machoke, but he can't really do that much, so I stay in and use Leech Seed. I send in Freddy next, lowering Machoke's attack with Intimidate so he doesn't hit back too hard. A final Spark ends up taking down Machoke. It turns out to be a critical hit, though that wouldn't really have mattered anyway. After training my team a bit more, I head straight to the Pastoria City Gym. Since I have both an electric type and a grass type, this should hopefully not be too difficult. Wake leads with his Gyarados and I send out Luxray. After we're done intimidating each other, one Spark easily finishes off Gyarados. Wake's Quagsire is out next, so I switch into Jason. A single quad effective Razor Leaf is easily enough to KO. Last out is Floatzel. I switch into Freddy, who's brought to half health after 2 attacks. One more Brine could deal a lethal amount, so I have to hope that Freddy can one-shot. And he can, which earns us yet another gym badge. On my way out of the gym, I spot my rival. Let me go talk to him. I then head to Iron Island where I meet up with Riley. So the idea was that since I'm paired up with someone, I'll encounter 2 wild Pokemon at once instead of 1, which essentially doubles my odds of finding a shiny. After a few hours of looking though, I realize it might not be such a good idea after all, as even if I do find a shiny, there's a good chance that Riley's Lucario will take it out before I can do anything. On top of that, there's a high chance that one of the encounters is going to be a Graveler that knows self-destruct, which is just a recipe for failure. So I decide it's best to look elsewhere after all. After 8 more hours of looking for another encounter, I finally find a shiny Floatzel. Not the best looking shiny in my opinion, but I'm really not gonna complain. I name her Annabelle. She has an adamant nature which is absolutely insane. That's some crazy luck right there. With my new team member, I finally decide to take on the next gym leader, Byron. I send out Jason, who sets up with Leech Seed and Swords Dance. After that, one Earthquake blasts Spore Magneton out of the arena. Even Steelix with his massive defense stat goes down to 1 Earthquake. Finally, Byron's ace, Bastiodon, comes out. So I go for one more Earthquake, which takes down Bastiodon and wins me the 6th gym badge. After a lot of plot, I head north where I start looking for my next encounter. This one took me 2 days, but I finally found a Sneasel, and I absolutely adore him. Look at this pink. He has a lax nature, which is alright. After all that time, I feel so ready to battle Gym Leader Candace. I lead with Jaws and set up with Stealth Rock, and then go for Yawn to put Sneasel to sleep. I then send out my own Sneasel, Chucky, who's able to take down the opposing Sneasel with a couple Metal Claws. Candace sends out Piloswine next, so I pivot into Jason to take a Stone Edge, which ends up missing after all. Piloswine's only Ice-type move is Avalanche, which has negative priority, so I'm absolutely safe to stay in and use Earthquake. Which KOs. Next out is Abomasnow, so I send out Freddy. A Woodhammer does a scary amount of damage to Freddy, but he hangs on and uses Roar, which switches out Abomasnow, making use of Stealth Rock. Frostlass is dragged out, so I switch into Chucky again, since Frostlass doesn't have any hard-hitting moves against him. Frostlass does a surprising amount of damage with Blizzard, but I stay in since I do expect a payback to be enough to KO, so I go for it. And it isn't even close. Frostlass uses Blizzard, and Chucky survives on 4 HP. One more payback takes out Frostlass this time around. But it's not over yet since Candace still has her Abomasnow left. I stay in with Chucky and go for Metal Claw, which takes down Abomasnow and wins me a hard-earned gym badge. I advance through a little more plot and manage to find a Razor Fang, meaning I get to evolve Chucky the Sneasel into a Weavile. I then ascend Mount Coronet where I take on Commanders Mars and Jupiter together with my rival. I send out Annabelle, who slowly but surely wears down both bronzers. After a while, I'm forced to switch into Freddy though, who's able to finish off one of the bronzers. Jupiter sends in her Skuntank instead, so I hit it with another spark, which ends up being a critical hit and causes paralysis. My rival switches into his Infernape and Freddy finishes off Skuntank with another spark. Jupiter finally sends in her Golbat, after which Infernape takes on Mars's Bronzer, and Freddy takes on Jupiter's Golbat with a spark. Mars sends out a Golbat now, but a Thunderfang easily takes him down. Last out is Mars's Perugly, but Infernape makes quick work of him with close combat, winning us the fight. So then, I, a 10-year-old child, jump into the portal that takes me to another dimension where a deadly beast resides. I make my way downtown and find Cyrus in the depths of the Distortion world, and naturally, I challenge him to a battle. I send in Jaws to set up Stealth Rock, and then I take out Houndoom with Superpower. Cyrus sends in Gyarados next, so I pivot into Jason predicting an Earthquake so that I can safely switch into Freddy. Since Freddy is faster, I'm able to take out Gyarados with a single spark. Next out is Cyrus's ace, Weavile, who deals a horrifying amount with Ice Punch. Freddy survives though and retaliates with Spark, which deals a good chunk of damage. I then switch into my own Weavile, Chucky. Chucky uses Metal Claw, which takes out the opposing Weavile. Cyrus sends out his Honchkrow, so I switch into Annabelle since I know he'll go for Heat Wave. On the next turn, Annabelle uses Ice Punch, which takes out Honchkrow in one shot. Cyrus is down to his last Pokemon, Crobat, so I stay in and go for another Ice Punch, taking out Crobat, and winning me a notoriously difficult fight against Cyrus with relative ease. I then get ready to face the almighty god of the Distortion world, Giratina. I've got a pink weasel named Chucky though, so Giratina stands no chance. With that out of the way, I only have to acquire the last gym badge before I can challenge the league. So I head to Sunyshore City where I'm greeted by what looks to be a clown. Hey yo, is this guy checking me out? Freaking perverts. Volkner is hiding inside the Sunyshore Lighthouse, so I head over there and talk him into battling me. He also wants to make sure I know he's the strongest gym leader in Sinnoh.
Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, 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 no.
Having earned all badges in Sinnoh, the only thing left to beat is the Pokemon League. But first, I have to beat my rival. I lead with Annabelle, who's able to deal decent damage to Staraptor. Staraptor uses U-turn and switches into Roserade. I switch into Jason and start setting up with Swords Dance and Rock Polish. After that, Jason only has 23 HP left, but that doesn't stop him from taking down Roserade with an Earthquake. Staraptor is out next, but he's on such low HP already that a Razor Leaf is enough to KO. Heracross comes out next, but my calculations tell me another Earthquake should be enough to KO, and thankfully it is. Infernape is sent out next, but one more Earthquake takes it out as well. When Floatzel comes out though, it's time to switch out because it actually has access to Aqua Jet, which in the case of a crit, would kill. So I switch into Freddy, who is able to take out Floatzel with a Spark. Last out is Snorlax, so I switch into Jaws and go for Yawn to put Snorlax to sleep. This means I can safely switch into Chucky, who is able to take down Snorlax with a few Night Slashes. And that's our rival dealt with. I do feel like I need a full team for the Pokemon League, so I head over to Route 206 where there are a bunch of cool encounters available. After another whole day of hunting, I stumble upon an amazing shiny Gligar. I safely catch her with a Master Ball and name her It. It has a mild nature, which is the first legitimately bad nature of the run. With everything ready, I finally challenge the Pokemon League. Aaron the Bug User is up first. I send out It and start setting up with Swords Dance. Aaron's Yanmega attempts to be a nuisance by setting up with Double Team, but It has Aerial Ace, which is a move that never misses, to combat that. One Aerial Ace is enough to take down Yanmega. Next out is totally a bug type, I promise. An Earthquake is easily enough to KO. Caesar is out next, but it has Fire Fang, which deals 4 times effective damage and easily knocks him out. Heracross goes down to another Aerial Ace, and so does Vespiquen. And that's it for Aaron. I challenge Bertha next. She leads with Whiscash, who really isn't a threat to Jason the Torterra, so Jason is free to safely raise his speed with Rock Polish. After that, one Woodhammer easily knocks out Whiscash. Next up, Bertha sends out the only Pokemon Jason can't handle, Gliscor. I decide it's best to switch out into Annabelle, who's able to take down Gliscor with an Ice Punch. Golem comes out next, but a quite effective Waterfall takes it out in one hit. Bertha then sends out a Rhyperior, who once again can't handle any water-type attacks, so a Waterfall easily knocks him out too. Last out is Hippowdon. Annabelle uses Waterfall once more, but it actually isn't enough to take her out. That's fine though, as long as Hippowdon doesn't crit. Of course. That does sting quite a lot. Rest in peace, Annabelle, you were great. Wanting to avenge Annabelle, I send out Chucky to absolutely murder Hippowdon with 2 Ice Punches. Next up is Flint. Now, has anyone here ever seen a Bibarel single-handedly sweep an Elite Four member? Well, I'm about to show you why Bibarel is god tier. Jaws starts setting up with Amnesia, which drastically ups her special defense. She also uses Yawn to stall, allowing her to set up even more with Amnesia and Curse. After the setup, Jaws uses Return, which one-shots poor Houndoom. Flint sends out his Infernape, who goes for a super effective Thunder Punch, but Jaws absolutely tanks it, and hits back hard with another Return, taking down Infernape. Nice try, Fire Monkey, but you're no match for God herself. Rapidash comes out next and uses Solar Beam, but once again, it does next to nothing. Jaws then destroys Rapidash with another Return. Flint sends out his ace, Magmortar next, who uses Solar Beam. Jaws is completely unfazed by this though, and lightly taps him, which just demolishes poor Magmortar. Jaws does get burned though, so when Flareon comes out, I decide to spare Flint from any further destruction and switch into It. A single Earthquake is enough to KO, winning me another battle. I'm down to the last Elite Four member now, Lucian. I send in Chucky and start setting up with Swords Dance, whilst Lucian's Mr. Mime uses Reflect. Once Chucky's attack is high enough and Reflect is worn off, he uses Night Slash. Well, that was easy. Finally, I take on the lady that has given all of us Pokemon veterans PTSD, Cynthia. But this time is different. This time, I brought my secret weapon, Jaws the Bibarel. I send her out and raise my special defense with Amnesia. This makes it so that Cynthia's Spiritomb deals minimal damage. Jaws puts Spiritomb to sleep using Yawn and maximizes her attack and defense stat with Curse. After that, it's sweeping time. Jaws one-shots Spiritomb with Waterfall. Cynthia sends out a Roserade and uses Toxic. This is bad since it does put Jaws on a timer, but Jaws does manage to take out Roserade in one hit anyway. Lucario is out next, but for some weird reason it uses Stone Edge instead of Aura Sphere, which would likely have dealt a lot more damage. Gen 4 AI being Gen 4 AI, I guess. Anyway, Jaws then takes down Lucario with Waterfall. Cynthia sends out Togekiss, but at this point, the poison damage is starting to pile up. Togekiss uses Aura Sphere, which deals a decent chunk, but doesn't take me out. To my surprise though, a waterfall actually doesn't take out Togekiss as he lives on what must be 1 HP despite Jaws having maxed attack. Unfortunately, Jaws is on such low HP now that the poison damage is enough to take out Jaws. Rest in peace, buddy, you truly proved yourself to be more than just an HM slave. I send out Freddy next as Cynthia heals like a coward. It doesn't really matter too much though since Freddy one-shots Togekiss with a spark. Cynthia sends out her ace, Garchomp next, so I pivot into its since I'm expecting an earthquake. I send in Chucky as Garchomp uses Dragon Rush but actually misses. Now that's a rare sight. On the next turn, Chucky uses Ice Punch, and it easily is enough to KO. Garchomp faints and Cynthia is down to her last Pokemon, Milotic. I decide to leave Chucky in and go for Night Slash, which deals a ton of damage since it turns out to be a crit. Milotic doesn't deal too much back either. Cynthia heals though, but I go for another Night Slash which crits again, taking out Milotic and winning me a long and painful challenge. I guess all my luck decided to save itself for the very last few seconds of this run. That was a very painful experience. I strongly underestimated how severe the 1 in 8,192 odds were, but it feels so good to have it over with. I won't ask for much, but it would mean the world if you could like the video and leave a comment to show your support. It's all I need to keep me motivated to make more of these kinds of videos. Make sure you also subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming content, and tune into my Twitch to watch me live. Link is in the description. Anyway, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you soon again.